everyone. I am Sheldon Owen, Extension Wildlife Specialist with WVU Extension Service. Today we are joined with Cory and Emilee Briggs, who are both graduate students here at West Virginia University in the Fisheries program. So, Cory, Emilee, tell us a little bit about what you do. I guess back up and tell us where you're from and what brought you here to WVU.
I'm Cory again. I'm originally from Maryland, did my undergraduate research at Coastal Carolina University as well as my master's research, working with a lot of muskie and other species like that. But I came here to WVU because I got the opportunity to work with these amazing fish here on the streams that we hold in West Virginia.
I'm from Raleigh, North Carolina. I did my master's at NC State in Fisheries, and I loved it so much that I decided to do my PhD. And all of my experience has been in stream work, so it just made sense to come someplace and learn about cold water streams, which are very different from a lot of the warm water streams in North Carolina.
Okay, awesome. And today we're looking at brook trout, which, correct me if I'm wrong, this is the only native trout species here in West Virginia. Is that correct?
Yeah.
That's correct. So why do we stock most of our trout streams with rainbow trout or tiger trout instead of brook trout for fishery purposes?
We do a lot of stocking of those rainbow trout and brown trout, the non-natives, because they're easier to propagate, to sort of raise and stock in those areas. As well as a lot of the times people think they are a beautiful fish, they're good to eat. Also makes it really easy to tell that they are from outside of the system. So there's a lot of different reasons, but primarily to increase angler opportunities.
You all are both working with applied research projects, right? And so you're working here in the lab and also in the field, hopefully to improve our fisheries in the state of West Virginia. How does your research play into that? Or what will be the end result of your research to say, here's how we can better the system, or here's what we've learned?
I am looking at wild populations of trout in the state, primarily in like the Mon National Forest region. And I'm trying to identify their movement and their spawning or their reproduction habits. So hopefully by the end of my dissertation or my PhD, I'll be able to tell managers and other biologists who are out there actively doing, like working on the trout, doing habitat improvements. One, are the trout moving from these headwater streams where they live out to the big areas? Can we help reconnect them to these areas? And then are they able to reproduce? And if so, is it, do they have good habitat? Do they have good eggs, or are they struggling in some areas?
Okay. So my research is focused mostly here in the lab, working with these brook trout behind us as well. Mostly looking at their ability to grow at higher temperatures. So my goal is to look at what happens long-term in the face of climate change, see what happens to their growth potential, things like that in the wild, sort of model that out, look long-term, see what's going to happen to our populations, and see if there's potential for any sort of genetic addition to these populations to make them stronger in the face of, long-term climate change.
Awesome. Thank you both for the research that you do, and hopefully this will improve fisheries for this in the coming years. What is the difference between a cold water fish and a warm water fish?
Mostly where they're living. So cold water and warm water describes exactly that, the type of water that they live in. So cold water species like brook trout need that cold groundwater fed water. So even in the summer, we have to set these temperature loggers in these sites, and you have to put your head underneath the water, and it is so cold that even in the summer you can get a brain freeze while you're down there snorkeling, like trying to put these temperature loggers in the water. So that's, I think, the best way to physically think about it. Whereas warm water might be where you see more like bluegill, brim, things like that. So it's just about how cold is it or how warm is it.
Cory, we have an example of a brook trout here.
Yes, sir.
Talk about some distinguishing characteristics. How would I know this is a brook trout compared to another fish?
The distinguishing marks that separate a brown trout versus a brook trout are that the way that I learned at least is that brook trout are dark with lighter spots, whereas brown trout are light with darker spots. So this brown trout will be like a lightish tan to almost a cream color with relatively dark spots around. So if we look at this guy in comparison, we've got those really, really dark colors in the background with the lighter spots in the forefront. Also, this fish here, he's a male. You see the real dark belly right here. It almost comes down to a taper of the belly. Males will generally be a lot more vibrantly colored, especially during the fall, during their breeding season. That's one of their secondary characteristics that allow them to compete with other males to, be able to spawn. We have these worm-like patterns up here at the very, very top. These are feisty.
The fun of working with fish.
Oh yeah. So those worm-like patterns called vermiculations generally oscillate between like a darker green to a lighter green. This guy, being from our lab, is a little bit devoid of color, mainly because of the way that they like to hang out in those labs. But they will be a lot more vibrantly colored, especially in the fall. See those pink spots right here where my finger is with a slight blue halo? Those really, really pop in the fall, as well as these white lead fins with a black line. One of the features that are relatively unique to trout species and other salmonids are these fins back here. This adipose fin made up of a lot of fatty tissue is right here.
Thank you all very much for coming out and joining us this morning. Thank you all for joining us. And as you go out and explore our wild and wonderful waters of West Virginia, hopefully you'll be able to see a brook trout out there across the landscape of West Virginia.